Over the last 3 years in my Southwest Portland neighborhood, I have seen the average rent increase from $900 to $1,700. That's a 90% increase for an apartment. Let that sit for a minute. Most of the units on Beaverton Hillsdale are not even upgraded. These once relatively afforded homes, accessible to lower income families, seniors living on fixed incomes, and other vulnerable community members, are now only attainable for those making over $60,000 a year. This has driven out many of our long-term neighbors and has caused a palpable divide in our community between the haves and the have-nots. For example, this spring, proposed school boundary changes in my neighborhood would have moved the children, including my child, living in apartments on Beaverton Hillsdale Highway, and only those living in apartments, from their schools within walking distance to school more than 3 miles away. And children in the affordable housing Stevens Street Crossing can't go to Reike Elementary, a school they can see from their sidewalk, and are instead bused to Hayhurst, 2 miles away. How much is that costing the city? These classist policies echo the overwhelming message that City Council has continued to send to the public. If you have money, City Council represents you. Everyone else can just move. This has been evident with the complete lack of action toward slowing the rapid increase of rent throughout the metro area, the ballooning houseless population who continues to be swept from somewhere to nowhere, and the continued traumatic displacement of families by landlords who care more about their profits than people. Portland is in desperate need of tenants' rights, a rent freeze now, and an immediate end to no-cause evictions. We refuse to believe that you have done all you can do. You continue to throw money at building shelters without pausing to recognize that displacement from housing is a huge part of what is creating that need, Mr. Novick. Low vacancy rates can't be solved with more development if none of the housing is affordable. The vacant units are the high-rises charging $3,500 for micro studios. They aren't in places that your constituents can afford. Tenants are 49% of the city, projected to be 60% by 2020. When low-income, vulnerable populations get displaced, including the disabled, elderly, mentally ill, and those suffering from addictions, and there is a shortage of housing, including state-funded services, there is literally nowhere to go but the bushes. That is why we are seeing, I'm not finished, I'm almost done. This is why we are seeing tents all over the metro area, including Beaverton, Tigard, Clackamas. Where the hell are we supposed to go? Extending the housing state of emergency in the city of Portland is a no-brainer. 1 year, what a joke. It should easily be 3 years. But we need it to be more than lip service. And we need the city and state leaders that have power to do something about it to actually take real action. I urge you, I demand that you extend the declaration as well as implement a rent freeze now. A moratorium on no-cause evictions. As leaders of our city, it's your job to protect your most vulnerable citizens. And it is time you finally do the job you were elected to do.
Margot Black, organizer of Portland Tenants United. You'll be happy to know I don't have a speech to read, so you can cut me off. It's because I'm really tired. I woke up this morning thinking I'd read a speech, but instead I got this I was tagged in this message on Facebook. Is anyone able to help a neighbor who is an older disabled woman move her stuff into storage today or tomorrow? She got a no-cause eviction and her time is up. She has no place to go, and she shouldn't be kicked out, but kind of at a loss for what to do other than help her move her stuff. Commissioners, this is my new daily life. 2 years ago, I was a math teacher and a mother of 3. I still am, but I spend all of my spare time responding to inquiries like this. As Sammy mentioned, those folks call us, write us, message us, walk up to us on the streets when we're in our shirts and tell us their stories. If it's not the Ash Street tenants, it's the 43-unit building of low-income immigrant families in Tigard facing no-cause evictions. It's the families in my son's school at Reiki Elementary who message me or email me and ask if I know where they can find affordable housing because they have no-cause evictions or rent increases they can't afford. It's the family of 6, including triplets who were 1 year old, a year and a half ago, who had to move because of a no-cause eviction. They spent the summer camping in Grandma's yard. They are still cycling between the yard, the car, and the couch of Grandma's house because they haven't been able to get back into housing. It's the folks who wrote me around the same time who moved from a no-cause eviction and moved into an RV and now message me with tickets, the photos of the tickets they're getting for parking their RV all over town that they can't afford. It has been a year, okay? Commissioner Novick, you asked about statistics. I want to know why we know when we commissioned the study on Uber and taxi cabs, why we knew about every single pickup and drop off at every single point, at every single time in the city and the number of passengers, but we don't know how many people have been displaced by no-cause evictions in the city of Portland? How is that happening? All right, Airbnb hosts, the 20% or so who are actually operating legally, are more regulated than Portland landlords. If you want to get a drink, I can tell you more stories. If I wear my shirt, people will walk up to us and tell us about their $500 rent increase. It makes my $200 rent increase this year, makes me feel lucky, even though which is better than the $250 rent increase I got last year. We need a rent freeze. We need a moratorium on no-cause evictions. We need action. We need leadership. We need it yesterday. Thank you very much.
Okay, my name is Steve Hevertson, also an organizer with Portland Tenants United. Yeah, since he declared the housing state of emergency last year, the crisis is only getting worse, and one thing is clear today, it must be that. Tenants are still getting priced out and evicted for no just reason, and our unhoused neighbors are still being forced from place to place with no reasonable alternatives. The declaration may be up for debate in City Council today, but for those of us who are living this, it's really not a debate at all. This is an emergency. The declaration needs to be extended. It needs to be extended for much more than 6 months. I'm not trying to say that you all haven't made any effort here. Honestly, I'm not. Investment in affordable housing and shelter is important, but what effort you have made, it just isn't enough, and it isn't meeting our most urgent needs. We can't build our way out of this, and we can't afford to wait that long. We need a rent freeze and a moratorium on no-cause evictions, and we need it now. We need to stop the bleeding so we can put tenant protections with actual teeth and rent control in place. And we really do need to put a stop to our housing being used for Airbnbs full-time instead of as long-term housing for our actual Portlanders. And most of all, we need a shift in perspective from you. We need to put our needs above the landlord's ability to exploit this crisis for the bigger and bigger and bigger problems. There's no clearer example really of the housing emergency than what's happened on the Springwater Corridor. And there's a survey done of the people living out there, found that the great majority of folks are out there because of an eviction, because of a rent increase, because of a loss of their job, along with illness and domestic violence. Over 90% of those people say that they have lived in Portland for over 10 years, yet they are being stereotyped as criminals and outsiders in their own community. And I'm not even denying that this has been a major strain for people in Lansing, Brentwood, Darlington. A lot of those folks are just trying to hang on to their own housing and get by. But, what I think you all need to recognize is that if a housed person on my block commits a crime, you do not send the police to evict our whole neighborhood. And our unhoused neighbors are unhoused. They need to be treated as the individual human beings. They're not some great mass. They are of our community. They need a hand up. They do not need a kick when they're already down. And they need to have their voices heard. They need to be a part of making solutions that work for them. I'm going to wrap it up now by saying that if we do not take aggressive action to keep Portland housed, then it's only a matter of time until we have the next Springwater Corridor. We need to extend the declaration, please. We do. And let that be the first step of an actually aggressive solution that matches the severity of this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Next three are Jamie Partridge, Paula Madden, and Chris Creball, and they'll be followed by Michael Withy, Young Nam, and Kelsey Schomburger.
Okay, Mr. Partridge, just give us your name. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm Jamie Partridge. I'm a retired letter carrier, and my union, the National Association of Letter Carriers, has endorsed the Portland Tenants United call for rent control and for an end to no-cause evictions. I represent my union on the Northwest Oregon Labor Council, AFL-CIO, which represents unions in 4 counties. And they've gone on record endorsing the Portland Tenants United call for rent control and an end to no-cause evictions. I represent my union on the Jobs with Justice Steering Committee, which is over 100 labor and community and faith-based organizations, which has also endorsed the Portland Tenants United call for rent control and the no-cause evictions. I won't go into stories. I've spent some time out on the Springwater corridor, and I'm pleased that Brother Hyberton preceded me. Mayor Hales, if you're listening, what you're about to do tomorrow in evicting those souls out on the corridor is a crime against humanity. It's unnecessary and will accomplish nothing but more pain and suffering. What we need is replacement, not displacement. We need relocation, not disbursement. We need a rent freeze moratorium on no-cause evictions, and we need to keep Portland housed. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Paula Madden, and today has been an eye-opener. I admire your dedication and hard work, and I don't envy you the issue confronting you now. Today I've come on behalf of the majority of employees in a commercial building in Northwest Portland to speak of our concerns. We are distressed, disappointed, and quite frankly disgusted by the negative impacts that have been made on property and sidewalks. This summer, hosting former residents, including twice mayor of Orinda, California, and first-time visitors, they were shocked. In the lobby, as you came upstairs today, there are historic photographs of North Portland dating from the 1900s through the 60s and 80s. Look carefully. There's not a speck of litter or tents on sidewalks, and there's pride. Law-abiding citizens, taxpayers, and business owners are affected by the garbage, drug needles, human feces, and squalor that has been exacerbated by the state of emergency, and daily we pick up the mess. The city needs to get a plan, and it needs a one-year emergency schedule. It's a safety issue, it's a trash issue, graffiti has tripled, men have literally climbed walls and broken in. Employees parking under 405 are afraid now in the daytime and night. But equally important, it's a question of heart. For the most vulnerable in our community, we need a emergency shelter.
Camping on a line.
In light of the legal decision prohibiting use of industrial land, there is a compassionate choice. Wapato costs $58 million hard-working taxpayer dollars, yet sits empty at $500,000 per year. It could house immediately 525 people in short notice. Why not work with Multnomah County? The weather is changing. Someone said 87% people would like to be inside. I agree we need the maximum year extension emergency, but the longer the problem festers, the worse it gets. There is no stigma to Wapato that has never been used as a jail. And it's a place where people could feel safe. It could be painted. There's 1% for art. Mental health and addiction problems could be addressed.
Okay, Ms. Knapp, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Arlen?
Hi, my name is Chris Trable. I'm a member of the Overlook Neighborhood Association Board. There is an emergency, and we need to focus on this ordinance today, not all of the ancillary issues that have been raised. When council approved the housing emergency a year ago, we started to try. But before renewing it, you need to ask yourselves whether it succeeded. I would say it has not. We've seen policies proposed under the ordinance that then failed. What's been cited as successes could have been done under existing code without the state of emergency. The goal is momentum. We have that. The goal is to allow temporary shelters to continue. A more narrowly focused ordinance would suffice. The emergency declaration led to an autocratic, top-down approach that runs counter to Portland's tradition of broad civic engagement. We are a community that brings all stakeholders to the table to find solutions, not one that enacts them by decree. We've heard a lot today from housing advocates. I'd like to share with you the perspective of a neighborhood. In Overlook, even before the emergency, Hazelnut Grove was allowed to form without any input from the neighbors on a piece of land that was a swamp in the winter and a fire hazard in the summer. It's now a rat problem. The site is unsuitable for human habitation. Yet somehow this is the best Portland can do with the power of a house ordinance. A few weeks ago, after abandoning peaceful negotiations toward a temporary permit for Hazelnut Grove, The mayor's office said the camp would be relocated by the end of October. Since then, the office has refused to answer questions about the move, leaving residents and neighbors uncertain of what comes next. In addition to Hazelnut Grove, camping continues to increase in Overlook and to cause problems. This ordinance is big on language about the needs of Portland's homeless residents, and it should be. As a society, we have a moral obligation to help, but it also should be big on language about neighborhood livability. We find needles where our children play, trash accumulates, car windows are smashed, property is stolen from garages and yards, packages disappear from front porches. Those are symptoms of a housing emergency, but the emergency declaration ignores them. I urge you to reject this extension.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next three.
Are Michael Withy, Young Nam, and Kelsey Schomburger, and they will be followed by Terry Light, David Davis, and Lightning Watchdog PDX.
Okay, Mr. Withy, just give us your name. You have 2 minutes.
Wait till I go up there and speak.
I did not want to be you guys. It's a thankless job you're doing. I appreciate what you guys have been doing for years, and I appreciate what you're doing now. I know that you'd like to do more. I know that you're in the middle, and you have people that hate homeless, you have homeless advocates, and you have all these conflicting emotions. It must be very hard for you. So I want to thank you for doing what you're doing. Amanda, I think you brought up a very good point. I believe that the new writing of this homeless emergency or this housing emergency should include tiny houses. We're working together with some churches, some other nonprofits, some organizations to buy land, to build tiny houses. I hate to call them tiny houses, small structures, emergency structures that will be put on the back of flatbeds and moved throughout the city to different churches and different organizations, private property. No city property, this will all be private, so that we won't have to go through these hoops, all this red tape. It's a lot better to do it privately than it is to do it publicly. So when you go to rewrite this, I would hope that you go ahead and include in there some ability for church properties to use their parking lots or their property to place these temporary structures, as well as nonprofits that buy property to use them for that purpose. I'm a part of an organization that's already putting together money, that's already putting together coalitions to build these tiny houses. We're going to do it. Over the next few weeks, you're going to hear a lot more about it. We would hope that you guys stay open. Keep your minds open about this, but also I'd really like to see it in the writing for the new proposal. And so I'm glad you brought that up. I'd also like to bring up that we can't produce 1,800 units that quick. We're typically, as a governmental, you guys are usually spending about $250,000 on affordable housing. We can build these.
Your time is up. Appreciate it. Thank you. Sir, give us your name and you have 2 minutes.
I'm Hyung Nam. I'm actually a social studies teacher of one of Margot and Sammy's children, and also I'm a owner-occupied landlord of a duplex. And I could speak from experience that actually I just spent some time writing some curriculum for teaching about the housing crisis. And as you know, there are over 50% of renters in Portland are housing insecure, so even people that are not houseless yet are already insecure. And that includes our students, my friends, and many of the people that make Portland the city that we want to live in. So I want to urge you to declare a housing state of emergency, but make it mean something by using this state of emergency to go against the state preemptions on things like real estate transfer taxes, for house flipping, for rent control, for no-cost evictions, and so on, so that we can actually make this housing state of emergency make a difference. And you have the power to do so. And furthermore, and same thing with cracking down on Airbnb. I want to also ask you, what is the cost of doing these sweeps? I mean, how much money does that cost? Where do people go? Ultimately, we need permanent housing, affordable housing, really affordable housing, not what's for median family income of over $50,000. So that is something that you can do, and I urge you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Just give us your name, you have 2 minutes.
I'm Kelsey Schomberger, and I'm a young renter facing the threat of losing housing if I were to receive a no-cause eviction or exorbitant rent increase. It's a serious fear that I live with all the time as I see my friends receiving evictions without warning, becoming displaced, or desperately struggling to keep up with rent prices when wages barely cover bills, let alone food. I see my friends searching for couches to sleep on or temporary places they can stay to avoid having to sleep outside. Others have no other option. My household has hosted folks struggling to stay housed, and I have seen the trauma and suffering of this housing crisis firsthand. I find myself in a precarious position as a person disabled by chronic illness. I have difficulty making payments on bills and am constantly stressed about paying my rent. I am not so far from losing my housing due to financial instability, and I'm barely hanging on. Facing a no-cause eviction or rent increase, I could lose the roof over my head, as so many others have. I live on 83rd Avenue near Flavel, and I'm not so far from the Springwater Corridor. I have been out there and visited the campers when I went to go volunteer to help them clean up. And what I saw were human beings who were doing what they can to survive and live their lives while they're afforded inadequate resources or help for their health and well-being. They are already vulnerable in their position and are not provided true opportunity to find stability, shelter, and safety, and ultimately long-term housing. To sweep these encampments with no concrete solution offered when they have nowhere to go or enough help to get them there is a heinous act of violence. These people are living, feeling human beings, refugees in their own city. The scale of this humanitarian crisis, this public health crisis, is tremendous and has no end nor plans for solution in sight. It will not be resolved in 6 months, and at this rate, not even 12. I urge support for an extension of the housing state of emergency, and I'm making an appeal to your compassion and humanity. That with your power that you hold as commissioners of our city to prioritize the needs of the masses and not moneyed interests or merciless, greedy landlords and management companies.
Okay, thank you. Your time is up. Would you read the next 3 names, please?
Are Terry Light, David Davis, and Lightning Watchdog PDX.
All right.
And they'll be followed by Tequila Gordon, Robert West, and Sharon Nassett.
What was the first name? Ms. Light?
Terry Light.
Terry Light?
There he comes.
Oh, okay.
So why don't people get 3 minutes like usual? Why are you cutting it down to 2?
Because I'm the presiding officer, that's my decision.
So you see the city codes like Donald Trump wants to, build the wall and do whatever the hell he wants?
Mr. Light?